I still remember the day I arrived. Everything looked perfect, on the surface. It felt like the beginning of something safe, something easier. Cut 2. A staff member opens the car door and greets the elderly person main character with a cheerful smile. Nurse, welcome. We've been expecting you. Let me help you with your things. Narrator voiceover. There was a warmth in her voice, the kind that gives you hope. And for a moment, I truly believed I had made the right decision. Cut 2. Inside the building. Bright lobby flowers on the desk, residents chatting in the background. Narrator. Everything was clean, organized, smiling faces all around. They said all the right things. You'll be safe here. You'll have company. No more stress. No more worries. Camera follows the resident walking down the hallway, guided by the staff. The room number appears. 112. This will be your room. We've made it cozy for you. Camera pans across the room, small but clean. A bed, a nightstand, a tiny window letting in warm light. On the table, a welcome card. Narrator voiceover. It wasn't home, but I told myself it would become home, maybe even better. After all, I was tired. Tired of depending on my children. Tired of struggling with little things at home. Tired of being alone. Cut 2. Unpacking suitcase. Hands open a box with a photo frame, a younger family picture. Narrator. I brought only a few things. Some clothes, a book or two, and this photo, a reminder of what once was. A reminder of why I made this choice. Background fades slowly into a flashback. Elderly person at home struggling with groceries, slipping slightly while walking. A child looking concerned. Daughter in flashback. Dad, maybe it's time. A care home could help. Just until you feel better. Narrator. They said it out of love, I know, but deep inside, I also wondered if I was being passed on like a burden too heavy to carry. Back to present. Staff gives a tour of the dining area, activity room, and garden. Staff member, we have bingo every Friday. Movie nights on Wednesdays, and we do garden walks if the weather is nice. There's always something happening. Narrator voiceover. It sounded wonderful. Like a second childhood, one without responsibilities. And for a while I let myself believe it. Cut 2. Later that evening, the room is dimly lit. The resident sits on the bed, staring at the photo frame. Narrator. But as the sun set on my first day, I began to notice the cracks. Not in the walls. Those were spotless, but in the silence. Long pause. Silence. Clock ticking. Narrator. The staff were kind, but busy. Other residents were polite, but distant. And the air, it had a stillness. A kind of quiet that didn't bring peace, just a strange emptiness. Cut 2. Nighttime. The resident lies awake in bed. The hallway light shines faintly through the doorway. Music shifts to soft, melancholic tones. Narrator. I listened for something, anything. A laugh, a TV, a footstep. But all I heard was the hum of the heater and the loneliness that came with it. Camera slowly pans to the window outside. The streetlights flicker. Narrator. I thought this place would make me feel less alone, but I had never felt more separated from the world. Cut 2. Morning. Breakfast is served in the dining hall. The resident sits at a table, quietly eating oatmeal. Narrator. Morning came, but it didn't feel like a new day. Just another repetition of the same. I missed the mess of my old kitchen. The noise of traffic outside my apartment window. I missed being part of life. Staff member walks by and says cheerfully, Nurse, how's your first morning? Everything okay? Narrator internally. I nodded. What else could I say? That I was already counting the hours. That I wanted to go home, even if I didn't know what that meant anymore. Cut 2. Another resident tries to make conversation, but struggles. Camera shows the brief awkwardness, then silence. Narrator. Everyone here had a story. Most of those stories stayed locked behind tired eyes and quiet mouths. We were together, but not truly connected. Scene transition. Weekly family visit time. Other residents have visitors, hugs, flowers, laughter. The main character waits quietly in the corner. Narrator. I waited. day they'd come. My daughter, my grandchildren. I had told them about the visiting hours. But sometimes life gets busy. Clock ticks. No one comes. Narrator, they didn't show up that day. Not the next. And slowly, my hope began to fade, just like the sunlight through that tiny window. Cut to the resident writing a letter or journaling. Narrator, I started writing just to hold on to something real. My thoughts, my regrets, my memories of the life I once lived, of the freedom I once had. Visual. The nursing home's common room. Residents sit quietly. Some watch TV, others stare into space. The main character sits alone, looking around. Narrator voiceover. They said I'd never feel alone here, that there would always be people around. And they were right. The room is never empty. But somehow, I've never felt more isolated. Cut 2. The main character tries to start a conversation, but the other person doesn't respond much. Everyone here has a story, but most stay silent. We sit side by side, yet the silence between us is louder than any noise. Visual. Clock ticking. People looking bored or lost in thought. I miss real connections. A warm chat, a shared laugh, something that feels alive. Text on screen, hard truth number 2. Being surrounded by people doesn't mean you won't feel completely alone. Visual. A caregiver enters the resident's room with a gentle knock, holding a tray with pills and water. Caregiver, good morning. It's time for your medication. Breakfast is in 20 minutes. Narrator voiceover. I used to wake up when I wanted. Make my own tea. Take a walk without asking anyone's permission. Now every part of my day is planned for me. Cut 2. The resident sitting quietly as the caregiver checks off a list and reminds them of the next activity. They mean well, I know, but the structure that's supposed to help started to feel like control. Visual. The resident walks toward the garden but is stopped by a staff member. Staff. Sorry, sir, it's not garden time yet. Maybe after lunch. Narrator. I couldn't go outside when I wanted. I couldn't eat when I was hungry. Even my bedtime wasn't mine anymore. Cut 2. The resident sitting by the window, looking out quietly. I didn't realize how much independence mattered until I lost it. It's not just about freedom, it's about dignity. Text on screen, hard truth number 3. In the name of care, you may lose control over your own life. Visual. The resident presses the call button. Time passes. The clock ticks. No one comes. Narrator voiceover. They promised care and attention, but sometimes no one shows up. You wait and realize you're just one of many. Cut 2. A staff member finally enters, looking rushed and distracted. Staff, sorry, we're short-staffed today. I'll be back soon. Visual. Resident nods quietly but looks disappointed. Narrator. The nurses are kind, but they're overworked, under pressure. And that means small things get ignored till they become big things. Cut 2. A resident. Sitting in a wheelchair, looking uncomfortable, being left in a hallway. Sometimes it's not abuse. It's neglect. Unintentional, but still painful. Text on screen. Hard truth number 4. Even with good intentions, real care can get lost in a broken system. Visual. The resident sits near a window, watching another resident being hugged by visiting family members. Narrator voiceover. I thought I'd feel more connected here. But instead, I started to feel forgotten. The world had moved on without me. Cut 2. The resident checking a calendar, sighing, then putting it down. Birthdays passed. Holidays came and went. Fewer phone calls, rare visits. I smiled. When they did come, but inside I was breaking. Visual. Resident looking at an old photo of family, wiping away a tear quietly. It's not just about being cared for. It's about being remembered, being loved, being part of something bigger than these walls. Text on screen, hard truth number 5. The biggest pain isn't physical, it's feeling like you no longer matter.